Okay, who can tell me what did we discuss in the last meeting? What was chapter 7, 6 about? Anything you remember?
It was about characteristics of the devotional service and how to take the shelter of the guru. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. The first 5 points were about the guru. Yes.
yeah,
Taking shelter of guru, initiation, and so
yeah,
forth.
initiation,
Yeah. Okay.
doing service and how to progress in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Chapter 8 is a continuation. So as we remember in chapter 6, we were given 64 items, and then they're being further broken down and discussed in detail. So chapter 7, yes, you brought out some points about Guru, the first 20 topics you discussed. Chapter 8, now in 6 and 7 chapter, we did 10 items that were to be done, pravritti, and 10 items that were to be avoided, nivritti. Right? So this is a continuation of that, nivritti. It's like what is to be avoided. So avoiding offenses in devotional service. So that's a major subject in itself. That's why we have a separate chapter for it. The word aparad has the word radha in it, as we all know. So anything that takes us away from Radharani, so that's an offense in bhakti. Radharani is the Haladini Shakti of Krishna. So as I think we briefly touched upon, right, the Samvit, Sandhini, and Haladini Shaktis of Krishna. So Samvit gives the knowledge, and Sandhini is the resources, the facilities, and Haladini is the enjoyment that comes from these two things. So if Radharani goes away, which is the Haladini Shakti of Krishna, then there is no pleasure in devotional service. Right? And that's where we connected it to a guru, because the guru plays a very significant role in connecting us to these three Shaktis, the Sandhini, Samvit, and Haladini Shakti of Krishna. Right? So he takes responsibility on behalf of Krishna to share the knowledge with us and what to do with the resources that we've been given in this world. And then when the mercy comes down to us, we experience bhakti, experience happiness in bhakti. So that's Haladini Shakti. So yes, so all of these. So when we go away from Haladini, Radharani, we don't get taste, we don't get happiness. Right? So then we can't go long because material taste starts taking ground then. As they say in English, there's a saying that goes, don't let the trail go cold. If sometimes what happens is if we are not getting any taste, we just let go of it. Oh, I don't believe all this and there is no taste in it. But people, devotees who consistently keep practicing, whether they are getting taste or not, even if they don't feel like doing anything, they just keep going anyway. That holds a space for them. And the trail never goes cold for them. Like trail means like you have a trail, right? So if people keep walking on that trail, so that space is always maintained. But if people don't walk on that trail, slowly the trail overgrows and you cannot find the way anymore. So when we go away from Haladini, when we don't get taste, we lose happiness, and that primarily happens because of aparads that we do in bhakti. Aparad and aparad, as I said, in English, if you translate it, it's an offense. And then there is pap. So aparad is offense, pap is sin. Yes. Aparad is more dangerous than pap. When we do aparad, we go away from Krishna and lose taste in devotional service. Papa and punya, they are kind of material, right? So papa is also not good, but aparad is anti-devotional. So in one sense, offense means we disrespect that which is to be respected. Simple as that, if I have to explain it. Something that we are supposed to respect, we disrespect. When we mistake spiritual to be material. It is not like Krishna is waiting us for us to do offense. We don't have to become fearful and paranoid about offense, but look at it as a guideline of things which I will do if I'm disrespectful. What will be I doing? When you go for bowling, you all must have gone to bowling for some time or the other. When you go for bowling, there are guardrails, right? Yeah, I don't know if you've seen for kids, they bring out the guardrails so that the ball does not go out. Similarly, by avoiding these offenses, we are preventing our devotional service to be sidelined or even completely thrown out of the window. We remain within the boundary of etiquettes. Offenses means when by avoiding offenses, we treat Krishna and his manifestations appropriately. And those are some of the things that will be discussed in this chapter. This and the next one, 8 and 9. We'll cover 2 chapters today. For example, one of them is that we should not shout in front of deities and all those kinds of things. There are a few of those. Some basic principles. Right. Basic principle is to respect Krishna. And by respecting Krishna, we remember Krishna. You all might remember that we talked about the concept of never forgetting Krishna and always remembering Krishna. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavya na jatuchit, sarve vidhi nisheda sayat, etayoreva kinkara. Mahaprabhu, this verse is from Padma Puran, but Mahaprabhu quotes it when he's giving instructions to Sanatana Goswami. It's in Madhya Leela, 22nd chapter. So what it says is, Smartavya satatam Vishnu, always remember Krishna. Vismartavya na jatuchit, never forget Krishna. So getting out of the material world is never forget Krishna. And attraction to spiritual world is always remember Krishna. Both need to be done side by side. We forget Krishna when we get attracted to the material world. And even if we can negate attraction to the material world, that is come to zero, but not attracted to spiritual world, Krishna, we won't remember Krishna. We won't forget, but we won't remember either. So it's kind of a middle ground. So we don't want that. So by offenses, what happens is we forget Krishna. By avoiding offenses, we remember Krishna and we continue on the path and we continue to grow. Right? So once what had happened was there was a devotee who was cleaning Prabhupada's room and there was a picture of Prabhupada in the room. And while cleaning it, he accidentally put it upside down. And Prabhupada said it was an offense. Obviously, Prabhupada was not concerned about his respect, but he was concerned about a respect of a representative of Krishna. So as I said, it's not just Krishna, but his manifestations also that we are not supposed to offend. Generally, when we are carrying a picture of Prabhupada, we're carrying books for distribution, we try to be respectful. Right? So basic principle is to be conscious and respectful. That's where this whole concept of offenses is being discussed from. So I'm just giving you the principle of why offenses are such an important aspect that we have to contribute a full chapter to it. Right. I talked about the story of the 4 daughter-in-laws, right? The 2 were neither thoughtful nor faithful. Third one was faithful but not thoughtful. Fourth one was both faithful and thoughtful. So it's important that we don't do any offenses. And sometimes I think in some of these offenses that we're going to discuss, you might see that they might be a bit contradictory also. I think there was one that I was reading it, it came up. Yeah, okay, so this is one. One should not eulogize or praise anyone before the deity. Right? This is one of them. But as we all know, in the temple, we are praising devotees. Yes, whenever there is a speaker, we always praise the speaker, we glorify the speaker in front of deities. So it might seem a bit contradictory that, oh no, the message here is not to do that, but we are doing it. And there's also another one here that you should not pay obeisances to your spiritual master in front of the deities. That's one of them also in here. But if we see the spiritual master as a representative of Krishna, then there is no harm in it. So we always have to understand the thought behind it and do it accordingly. It might seem contradictory, but it is not contradictory. The whole, morning we sing that Sansar Bhavanal prayer. We are glorifying the spiritual master in front of Krishna. So but then all the verses are about the master serving Krishna directly, dedicated. So we are glorifying Bhakti Devi. So it's not an offense. So just I wanted to give you a contradictory view also. So many of such things will be discussed here. Another principle that is in here is that if one has died in the family, then one should not go in front of the deities. But that also seems a bit contradictory. But if a death has happened, I would like to go to the temple to get some relief. However, when we go to serve Krishna, we should be fully available and attentive to Krishna. That is why deity worship is only allowed once we have Brahman initiation, because the expectation is that the person has been practicing for a good number of years, and the mind is controlled enough that it does not get lost in some random thoughts when we are serving Krishna. Right? So there can be physical and emotional contamination which can distract us. So Prabhupada was not very insistent upon, like, oh, you cannot go to the temple if you're in grief. He was okay. But because in olden days, temple was the environment was very spiritual, and people could get spiritual solace at other places other than the temple. But nowadays, it's become very limited. So Prabhupada was not very insistent of, oh, you should not come if you're grieving. So so Prabhupada, as an acharya, he could make those changes. Right? So we are all following. We are all Prabhupada Hanugas, and Prabhupada has given us the Bhagavat Vidhi. So Bhagavat Vidhi is centered around hearing and chanting. Pancharatra Vidhi is based on worshipping. Panchatra Vidhi has a lot of rules and regulations. Right? But when it comes to Bhagavat Vidhi, there are not a lot of strict rules and regulations. When His Grace Adi-Gadadhar Prabhu was here, he talked about Srivas Thakur's son's death and how Srivas Thakur didn't mention it the whole night because the focus was on hearing and chanting, kirtan. But then, according to a Pancharatra Vidhi, if there's a death in the family, you should burn the body, and there is some rituals that you have to do, and also forth. But he didn't follow that because that was the Bhagavad Vidhi that he was following. Okay. So that's the whole concept of offenses. I just want to bring that out so that we have that concept clear. That the whole purpose of these offenses that are being mentioned here, you should not do this, do that. The whole purpose is for us to focus on Krishna, to remember Krishna. It's not that we just have to follow these and our mind is somewhere else. Okay, I've been told that this way I have to behave this way in the temple, but then my heart is somewhere else. That's not what Prabhupada has taught us. Prabhupada has given us a very clear guideline that our movement is about hearing and chanting. All these things are important, but when it comes, as I just quoted that verse, sarvidhi nisheda sayad etayor kinkara. So the first part of that verse is smartavya sudatam Vishnu, vi smartavya na jatuchit. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And the second half of the verse tells us sarvidhi nisheda sayur etayor kinkara. That all the rules and regulations mentioned in the Shastra should be the servant of these two principles. If a rule and regulation is in one way pushing you towards forgetting Krishna, you forget Krishna, then it's of no use. It should not be followed. Sometimes we become too focused on rules and regulations. No, Ekadashi, this is not to be eaten, that is to be eaten, this is the way you should do that. No, the purpose of Ekadashi is to save some time and remember Krishna. That's the most important purpose. But if that purpose is lost, there is no purpose in having Ekadashi. So Prabhupada has given us a very, very practical path to follow when he's brought this Bhagavad Vidhi to causeless mercy that Prabhupada has brought it to us. Okay, so that was something I wanted to give as a preamble before we jump into. Where was that? Let me see the slide. What was the slide saying? Okay, so what has been divided into is there are two things that are discussed in this chapter: seva aparad, offenses in the matter of serving the Lord, and nama aparad, offenses against chanting of the holy name. And I think nama aparad we have discussed in detail. I'm not going to discuss that. We have had this when we were doing Bhagavad Gita. We might briefly touch on it, but we've done a lot. Seva aparad is what I was mostly talking about right now. Offenses when we are serving the Lord. You cannot sit this way. You should not. Uh, if your clothes are not clean, you should not come, and so on and so forth. All those are offenses in serving. However, Prabhupada has given us this statement also in there, this in the chapter, that even if we do some offenses, we can overcome them by chanting. Nama pradyukta nam namani eva haranti agham avishyanti paruktani tani eva. Okay, I forgot the last sentence. But what it says is, it's also from Padma Purana. It says that nama pradyukta nam namani eva haranti agham. That by continuously chanting, you can overcome all the aparadhas that we are doing. So chanting or the holy name has more power than Krishna even. So if we offend Krishna as a deity form in the temple, we can overcome that offense by chanting. So his holy name is actually more merciful than Krishna. However, obviously, we should not be offending or doing offenses consciously, unknowingly, or not out of control. They're not under control. That's okay. But yeah, we should not make it a habit that, oh yeah, I'll do offense and then I will chant and that will make things okay for me. Okay, so that was the basis of the Seva Prad and Nama Prad. And I will take a pause here and see if anybody has any thoughts or something on your mind about what I just brought up. Obviously, this hope that this concept of
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Yeah, I was just wanted to. I was reminded of I think the seventh offense to commit sins on the strength of the holy name. So
Yeah.
so that's always to consider that just because that the holy name can you can overcome so many difficulties and but by committing offenses, so you thinking that due to the strength of the holy name that you can commit offenses, then that's a big uprod.
Yes, that's a very big uproar. Maybe we should not do that. Yeah, obviously, unknowingly, it's okay. Krishna is merciful. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, Krishna says that, 9:30, Apichet Sujacharo Bhajante Vanana Bhag Sadhureva Samantavya Samya Vivashito Visaha. That Apichet Suduracharo, people who are Sudurachar, Bhajante Vananya Bhag Sadhureva Sam. You think of them as sadhu because they're unknowingly doing it. They don't, unknowingly mistakes can be forgiven. But knowingly, if mistakes are done, then it's not forgiven. Right. So, yes, thank you for bringing that out, Prabhu. Any more thoughts? Anyone?
Also, it just like the DT offenses, they one has to be very careful. So I think there's a series of the types of offenses in Seva Pra, the DT, especially in serving DT. So
Yeah.
maybe that's covered later on or something. I'm not sure.
That's right here, bro. This
Oh,
chapter, offenses to be avoided. The first 32 plus 29, they are the first 32 are given here. Like for example, you should one should not circumambulate in front. One should not sit with while
okay.
holding your ankles, and then there are some specific to duty. You should not. Where was that? Varaha Puran gives us some more details. You should not uh, pass urine while doing deity worship, or you should not wear dirty clothes, and those kind of details are given in here.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, they're here. One should not enter the temple after visiting a crematorium. and one should not take opium or similar intoxicants, and all those things. Yeah, there are a lot of these DT related to DT worship. Yes, yeah.
So, but like on practical terms, is one able to, follow all of these regulations, and or there are chances that one may, mistakenly commit one of these upradhs that are listed here.
Yeah, yeah. One may do it, but as I was mentioning, uh, Krishna does not mind things that are being done as long as, see, it's as I mentioned earlier, it's about whether we are faithful and thoughtful, both. If we are not thoughtful, then that's not a proper way of doing DT worship. We have to be careful. But yeah, unknowingly, sometimes things happen. But that those things Krishna does not take into account. Yeah. But yes, there are
Sure.
lot of things here. Yes, we might not be able to follow everything. But the important part is that the goal here is to remember Krishna and being as much as focused on Krishna when we are doing his service, when we are doing DT worship. That is the goal here. This
Okay.
all these rules and regulations are meant to increase our focus and attention to the duty service we are doing. Yeah.
Sure. Another thought, I've always contemplated that when doing DT worship at home, those who have DTs at home, how, what kind of standard do we follow for home DT service? Ideally, we'd like to, follow all the standards at a temple, actually, but that's always not possible. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, we cannot follow all the rules regulations of the temple DT at home, right? We can have different rule regulations, but obviously we want to keep the cleanliness. See, when at home, and I think Prabhupada talks about this in the ninth chapter, when at home, you should treat the DT as the owner of the house. That's the kind of a respect you should give, as you would give to the owner of the house, right? If the owner of the house, then you would feed the owner first. Will have that sense of respect. When at the temple, the deity is to be treated like a king. So mindset is similar, right? And you could have that, and from that consciousness, like okay, the deities at my house are like the owner of this house. They are the ones to whom everything belongs in the house. So that way you treat them. So, but
Right,
obviously you cannot have the same standards as you cannot have six artis in a day at home.
right. But like mantras for waking up deities, mantras for putting deities to rest, at night.
Yeah.
Is that something that should be done for home deity, worship? What are your thoughts?
Yes, Prabhu, that should be done. So I do that. I have those mantras printed out and I have it near my deities. I
Right.
always,
I do also, but
yeah,
just wondering if we should
you
be
should do it. You should
doing
do
it
it.
at that to that
Yeah.
extent.
Yeah, I'm doing that. However, as I mentioned, we're not like changing dress every day for the deities at home.
Right,
At the
right.
temple, we have to do that. And it's not like I'm cooking six meals for the deities or doing six artis for the deities. I'm not doing that. We do two artis, one in the morning, one in the evening.
Yeah,
We cook
same
for
here.
we cook for the deities. And it's more of because you're the deity at home you have a personal relationship with that deity. And you can make a commitment to your deity at home and say, okay, like we have Krishna Balram at our house. So we have made a commitment, that we will offer you a full cooked meal twice a day. And we have maintained that since the deities came to our house, right?
Sure, sure. Okay.
And so we do that, but having that understanding also in your mind that this is not a this is not, we don't need a proper temple like standard at home. We
Right,
should be also conscious of that. Don't overdo it that it starts affecting your other bhakti processes. As I mentioned, we are not Pancharatra Vidhi people. We are Bhagavad Vidhi people. Hearing and chanting takes priority for us over everything else.
right, right,
That has to be the essence in our process. It's not like, okay, morning, I'm waking up at 3:30, I'm waking my deities up, I'm doing a full-fledged aarti, multiple things offering, and then by the time, it's 7 or 8 in the morning and I have to go to work and I have not been able to chant. No, if that option is available, I would always chant my rounds instead of doing the DT worship. I will keep my DT worship simple and focus on my hearing and chanting.
Okay.
Yes, friend.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
You mentioned that these are the examples of Panchratrik Vidhi, and you said that we follow the Bhagavad Vidhi of mostly chanting and Sankirtan. So my question is that, like, these are written rules for us, and we can see and kind of follow. Do we have written rules for the Bhagavad category?
Bhagavad category, Mataji. So let me show you. It's right in this, right? So we 64 rules. Remember, if you remember, in the 6th chapter, we did 64 rules.
Yes.
Okay. And where was that? Let me come to that chapter. Give me a second. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but out of the 64, the last 5 were which Mahaprabhu was very focused on. And the last 5, see, Prabhupada also tells us in here. Now the total regulative principles come to an aggregate of 64 items. Okay. There are Pravritti, Nivritti, and then 44 others. There are 64 items for discharging the regulatory practice. Out of these 64 items, 5 items, namely worshipping the deity, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating among the devotees, Sankirtan, and living in Mathura are very important. So Prabhupada has given those us. So this is one way of looking at it, that, Srimad Bhagavatam hearing is there is Sankirtan. Living in Mathura, we talked about in the Nectar of Instruction aspect, right? You have to, living in Mathura means you should have that consciousness. So this is one aspect of it. Then Mahaprabhu has given us his Shikshashtakam. The Shikshashtakam is a very important set of prayers for us, which give us a very clear principle of the Bhagavad Vidhi Mal. So I know you all Shikshashtakam. So let me pull that up and give you quickly show it
Is
to you.
that Nectar of Instruction, Prabhu?
Shikshashtakam, Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadava. That those 8 verses that Mahaprabhu has given us.
Okay.
Let me share. I'll show you those quickly. So here we are. So they all are given. They come from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, last verse. Sorry, last chapter, 21st chapter of the Antya Leela. There are 8 verses that Mahaprabhu gave. They are not together; they are scattered, but they have been pulled together by devotees. So right here, it starts with Cheto Darpana Marjanam, glorifying Krishna Sankirtan. Right here. So that is what our essence is. Then it tells us about the holy name, how powerful it is. And we are told by Mahaprabhu, there are no hard and fast rules for chanting.
Wow.
Then Trinadapi Sunichena, telling us humility, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. Then tolerance. You should be more tolerant than the tree. You should have no sense of prestige. You should have respect for others. And then chant. Then no desire to accumulate wealth, beautiful women, no followers, etc. Then understanding that Krishna is my protector and I am his eternal servitor. Okay, that then there is something he's expressing from his heart and separation. So this is a very good guideline for us from a Bhagavad Vidhi perspective.
Wow, that's wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you so much for bringing that out. Also, I have a question regarding, like, I keep my worship of deity very simple.
Okay.
And so I don't know the mantras to wake up or to put to sleep, but I simply like offer it in my own mind with the language I speak. So is that okay enough to like wake up the Lord or like putting the Lord to sleep? Like I don't make him sleep like the way in a bed or something like that, but now I will just request closing the door of my temple to please sleep, something of that sort. So is that okay?
That is fine, Matli. I would suggest that you also get those prayers. The reason I'm saying it, when you say it in Sanskrit, it has, so words have power to it. When we say something in a Sanskrit, it becomes more, how to say it, more expressive. and it becomes more, how to say it, we become more focused and conscious of what we are doing, right? Let's say in our local native, if in my mother tongue, if I say something, versus when I say it in English, I have to give it some thought before I say it in English because English is not my first language. So my mind becomes more conscious of what I'm saying and doing. Similarly, when you say it in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit being a very, as they say, it's Devanagari, they said language of the demigods. It becomes more expressive and more enhanced, more strengthened. Your emotion becomes more strengthened and enhanced when you do it. So if you don't find it online, let me know. I can find it for you.
Yeah, I'll try and search. If I don't, then I'll let you know.
There is an ISKCON Ministry of Worship. You can Google it. They have a website. They have mantras for most of the deities. Gaura Nitai, Radha Krishna, Jagannath Baldev, Subhadra Maharani. They have waking and sleeping mantras for all those deities.
Oh, so we have to, I didn't even knew that you have to say separately to everyone. I didn't even knew that because I was doing it in totality as the Supreme, addressing him as the Supreme and then asking him to go to sleep or to wake up.
So as I said, Mati, it's not, there's nothing wrong in the way you're doing it. As you know, for example, Krishna in 9th chapter, verse number 26 says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yo Me Bhaktya Prachati. You offer me water, leaf, flower, I'm happy. But if I have the capacity to offer Krishna more than a leaf, and I should do that, right? I should not. No, no. Krishna says water offer kar do. That's good enough. No, if I have the facilities, as Krishna has been given me facilities that I can offer him better things. I can offer him some cooked food, some good juices. I should do that. Similarly, yes, the basics are no problem. What you're doing, the basic, there's no problem in it. But if you have the facility and the bandwidth, you can do slightly better. Also, that's my suggestion. However, what you're doing is nothing wrong in that. That's what I just also want to
Thank you.
highlight.
Fair enough, Prabhu. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, out of the 32 offense, number 4, and I
You are
know
on
this
chapter 8. You are on chapter 8.
Yeah, the offenses.
Okay.
I know some devotees, they
8.
have pets, and so number 4 is saying one should not offer foodstuff to the deities, which has been seen by lower animals. So,
Which chapter are you, Mataji?
same, no, chapter 8, Prabhu. The offenses of the 32, number 4. One should not offer foodstuffs to the deities who's been seen by a lower species.
I'm trying to come to it. Oh, I see. Which has been seen by dogs or other lower animals. Yeah. I see that.
So, any instruction on that? Because I know some devotees have pets and.
Yeah, it is, Aji. But then again, as I said, we should be conscious of our limitations also. Personally, this is my personal viewpoint. I'm not saying this is the universal ISKCON principle. I personally am not a fan of pets. I don't like pets at all. My father is a big fan. He likes to keep dog. I've never in my whole life. I don't like animals. Keshav keeps telling me we should bring a dog. I said I don't like animals at home, and so I avoid animals at home. However, I can understand some devotees might like to have them. Then they might have to have an extra layer of protection for it, right? Because if the dog, let's say for example, is freely moving all over the house, and you're also picking up the dog and cuddling the dog while you're cooking food for the deities, that's not appropriate. So there should be some method that has been figured out by devotees that at least as a minimum, when you're cooking or when you're doing some deity worship, we as the people who are serving the Lord, we should not get contaminated, because the dog or the animal is not a clean animal, right? We all know it's not like the animal is taking a bath every day and he knows where to put his nose and where not to put his nose and everything. We cannot expect that from an animal. So that requires an extra layer of protection at our end, so that we don't kind of dilute the the process of deity worship that we are practicing at home. That's my thought, Mati.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, the second point says one should not fail to, the same will is one should not fail to follow the rules and regulation in worshipping the deity. So this is the ultimatum, right? All these rules should be followed, right? One should not fail to strictly follow. So
Where are you, Mati? Oh,
the
yeah.
same.
One should not fail to strictly follow the rules and
Rules.
regulations in worshipping the deity.
So all
Yes.
these rules one should try to follow to the best of the capabilities, right?
Yes, you should. Best of the capability, yes, you should.
But again,
However, as I mentioned to you,
yeah,
Prabhupada, I think Prabhupada highlights it. So this is the last paragraph here. This I've highlighted. It is stated that even a person whose life is completely sinful will be completely protected by the Lord if he simply surrenders to him. So it is accepted that one who surrenders unto the Supreme Lord becomes free from all sinful reactions. And even when a person becomes an offender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, he can still be delivered simply by taking shelter of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In other words, chanting the Hare Krishna is beneficial for eradicating all sins. Right? But if one becomes an offender to the holy name of the Lord, then there's no chance. So deity worship, above deity worship becomes the holy name. So yes, you should try your best to follow these rules, regulations. However, don't become so entangled in these rules and regulations that the thinking that, oh my God, I sat in the wrong way and all my deities worship is down the drain. No, don't overdo it. Remember that the holy name is always there to protect us. And Krishna never takes offense for people who are mistakenly doing it, unknowingly doing it. He never takes offense for that. But then again, we don't want to become a habitual offender also. So that's something to keep in mind.
so Prabhuji, if you have make some commitment to your home deity and with some situation, if you are not able to do that, it's an offense.
Depends what kind of a situation
Like,
you are. Let's say if you are supposed to cook for your deities and you fall
yeah,
sick, right? And you fall sick and you cannot get off the bed. That's not an offense. How is that an offense? Taking care of your health is also a devotional service, right? If you are not strong enough, how are you going to serve
not an
the
offense,
deity?
right? Prabhu, if situation is not permitting, then breaking the commitment due to some situation is an offense. That's what I was asking.
It's not enough. For example, whenever we go to India, we put our deities to sleep.
Okay.
Now our deities are sleeping for 2-3 weeks now. I'm not cooking for them. I'm not changing their dress. I'm not giving them fresh water every day. I'm not offering them a flower or anything. I'm not doing it. But you can take it to the next level. Now you'll say, oh, I'll give my deities to somebody and they will take care of it when I'm in India.
That's what I do.
That might be okay. But then everybody has to take it and understand it from their own perspective, what limitations you have. For example, we have 21-inch Krishna Balram deities made of marble. If I keep moving the deities around here and there, for sure I will, break those deities. I will chip them somewhere. They might fall off my hand. Who knows? I don't want to do that. So I never move my deities from wherever they are. I'm okay with putting them to sleep. Some people might have smaller deities made of wood, and they are okay with moving it. So according to time, place, and circumstance, we can make decisions. As long as we have this concept that we are trying our best to serve Krishna, we are not trying to cut corners. That if that is in your heart, Krishna is not going to take it as an offense.
And Prabhuji, where is this Pancharatri Vidhi we are talking about? In which literature it is found from?
Well, Pancharatra Vidhi comes from Narada Pancharatra. He gives a lot of those vidhis.
Narad?
Narad Pancharatra. There's
Narad.
a book called Narad Pancharatra, and there's a lot of vidhi given in there. And these ones that are being given here are coming from. There's a book by Sanatan Goswami. Harichinta, what is that? I forgot the name of it. I had it written down somewhere. But there's a book by Sanatan Goswami which gives these in detail, all this. Sanatan Goswami. Yeah. So there's a book where it's coming from. I don't remember on top of my head which was the universal name of that book.
Yeah, that book, Prabhu, is available online actually, Narad Panchratrika, and that is in Krishna.com, the website there, I think. We can
Could be.
you can check it there if you are interested.
Sure, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah. But as I said, don't get so involved in, because our movement is not of this this Pancharatra Vidhi. Our movement is Bhagavad Vidhi. Prabhupada is giving all these here, Rupa Goswami is giving all these here, so that we are conscious of, because at the end of the day, we want to respect Krishna. We want to have full consciousness, full cleanliness as much as we can when we are worshipping deities, when we are going to temple. And from that perspective, look at it. But don't let it take over your whole life and start thinking that this is the most important. As I mentioned, I gave you that verse also, the Madhya Lila 22nd chapter, the verse is there. Sarva vidhi nisheda sayad etayor kinkara. If something gets you so entangled that you forget to chant, and hearing chanting takes a second priority, then that is not something that our movement Prabhupada has taught us. That's what I'm just suggesting. All these rituals, you can follow them, but then don't overwhelm yourself that you forget the main part, which is to remember Krishna. Yeah, the book is Hari Bhakti Vilas. I just Googled it and found it here. Hari Bhakti Vilas has these details from which Rupa Goswami is picking up and presenting here. Okay, I saw that there were some. Okay, yes, that's it. Anything else? Anyone? Okay. Yes. So yes. So as I
Hare
was saying,
Krishna, Prabhuji, there is one
Hare
rule
Krishna.
not to wear either blue or red color dress. Is there any significance with those two colors?
Well, it's hard to see whether they're dirty or not when you wear those dark colors. Whether if you wear a light colored dress, it's easier to see whether it's dirty. That's one of those things. And some of these rules regulations, they're very specific about deity worship in temples. They don't apply to deity worship at home. So you have to look at them carefully. Because when you're doing deity worship in the temple, the standards are much higher. Whereas, as we were talked about, deity worship at home, the standards might not that be high, but obviously we have to maintain some standards. Cleanliness has to be there, but don't try to implement every single standard at home.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Also, Prabhu, it is mentioned here in one of the point that during somebody's death in the family or something like that, we are not supposed to enter the temple for at least minimum 12 days for Brahmanas and other people for a different span of time. So as a Bhagavata, we really follow that one because I haven't seen it really being followed in the temple. So please.
Yeah. So once again, so as I mentioned, this rules regulations, they're also for people who are doing deity worship. Okay. If somebody dies in the family, if some close person has left their body, we will be really emotionally, we will be very unstable, right? Somebody close to us has left. And we might not be able to do our deity worship with the full focus and determination and dedication that we're supposed to. So that emotional contamination can distract us. That is why it is being said here. But yes, I agree with you. Not everybody follows it, but that was the thought behind it. And it's different for different people because a Brahmana, as I mentioned, a person who's Brahmana initiated, by his or her practice over the years, his or her mind is controlled enough that even if they're going through a tough phase, they don't get distracted by that. Right? Arjun, when Abhimanyu died, Arjun cried. He was in grief. He was in immense grief. He cried in the evening when he came to know about Abhimanyu's death. But the next day, he was again fighting in the battlefield with that same focus, the same commitment, and same intensity. So, if some emotional contamination can distract us from our service, our deity worship, that's not good. That is why the suggestion is to stay away from that for some period of time.
I see. So maybe in ISKCON we are not very much focused on to that. We just follow, the
ISKCON,
regular,
yeah,
uh,
Mataji, ISKCON is a very broad, is a very big organization.
yeah.
Standards can vary from location to location, so I cannot say that this is one strict rule. If you go in India, some temples have very high levels of deity worship, right? I
Yes,
mentioned,
Prabhu. That also I have seen. Yes.
so it's not that every standard will be applicable at every ISKCON center, to be
I
frank with you. It's going to
see.
be different for different places. I highlighted the last time, women, if you go to India, you won't see women doing deity worship. In US, Prabhupada was okay with that.
Yeah.
Prabhupada, being an acharya, he can make those changes. And those
Mm-hmm.
changes will be acceptable. Krishna will accept those changes because they're coming from a pure devotee.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Prabhupada was conscious, okay, this I can change, this I cannot change, this I will change here, not there. Prabhupada, when he went to, when he saw deities in Paris, he calls them uh, Parisishwara, Radha Parisishwara. Those are the deities of the name of the deities in Paris. The name of
Mm-hmm.
the deities in London is Radha London Ishwara. Now, if you tell somebody in India that I have named Krishna as London Ishwara, they will laugh at us, right? Because they won't understand it.
Yeah.
So standards will be different according to the time and place and where the temple is located. Some temples might be very, very strictly following it, that if you have had a death in your family, you cannot come to the temple for 14 days.
Yes, Prabhu.
Some temple might not be doing it.
Yes, Prabhu. I agree. I agree. And I've seen that in India, like most of the temples, when there is eclipse, they are closed and they strictly follow all the rules and regulations, whereas we have a different approach to it.
Yes. Yeah. And the beauty of what Prabhupada has given us is this, that he has given us the essence and we can build our practice around that essence. But if
Yeah.
we build a practice without that essence, the practice has no value,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Correct.
Prabhupada quotes this in one of the, right, that uh, philosophy without sentiment is just speculation. You're just merely talking, sitting, like a armchair kind of a discussion. But if there is what's that? Philosophy and
A philosophy without religion
yeah.
is
So yeah,
uh,
so if you do,
or mental speculation. That was it.
yeah, so something like that, right? So
Yeah.
What Prabhupada has given us, that's the beauty of what Prabhupada has given us. Mataji, I can't tell you how much I appreciated that Prabhupada has given us something that no acharya in the past has ever done and no acharya in the future will ever do.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree. Totally agree.
And forget about everything. Forget about Krishna in the temple, Radharani, Gaurnita, forget everybody. If we could just hold on to Prabhupada's feet, I assure you, Prabhupada has given us this assurance, he'll take us back home, back to Godhead.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All these rituals, these list here, all this is meaningless, not meaningless, but it wouldn't have any value if I can't appreciate what Prabhupada has given us.
Yes.
So, so that's something we all should appreciate. That should be our essence. And around that, yes, we can build whatever we want. But Prabhupada should always be in the center. We will always be successful in whatever little we do, whatever more we do, we'll always be successful.
Yes, Prabhu. Agree. Agree. And we are lucky that we have that. Otherwise,
Yep.
it is very difficult, to
It's
follow
very
so
difficult.
many strict rules.
Very difficult, Mataji. It's very, very
Yes.
difficult. So the essence, giving an essence to what we are discussing once, just giving you a basic essence. If we are offensive during deity worship, we can rectify that by chanting. Holy name is far more merciful than deities, right? So as you all know, right, you cannot take the deities out. Generally, deities are taken out of their altar only on specific occasions. For example, we only take out deities on Jagannath Rath Yatra. But the holy name you can take anywhere with you. It's portable, right? So, so that's the beauty of it. But then again, the merciful nature of the holy name should not lead to laxity in deity worship. So understand this. It's a balance that you have to keep. But then when the choice has to be made, chanting and hearing should take priority in every position. If you just keep thinking that, oh, I'm not doing this, am I offending? This is an offense, then then our spiritual progress will be very slow. As long as we are focusing on hearing and chanting, we will keep progressing. All the offenses we might be doing unknowingly, they will be cleared by chanting. Right? So that's something to keep in mind. That's the essence here. Our repentant heart attracts Krishna's compassionate heart. That's what Krishna is looking for. A heart, Bhavagrahi Janardhan. Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardhan. That's what he's looking for. But if I become too much engrossed in these, that, oh my God, today I started this way, it's not been told in the scriptures, then I might just be overdoing it and might lose focus on the main thing. Okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Agree.
Thank you.
Totally agree. Thank you.
That was a good discussion. And sometimes also, yes, one thing I just add here, something that popped up in my mind. When you read this list, similarly, like similar to this, you might see that the scriptures, they promise us a lot of things. For example, Ajamil chanted the name of Narayan and he was saved from the Yamdutas. So somebody might think, oh my God, I can chant Narayan's name before I'm leaving and everything will be okay. Right? No. Extraordinary promises should not lead to extraordinary demands from us. It should increase our commitment to the process. Similarly, all this list that's been given here, the purpose here is not to become very, how do they call it? Paralysis by analysis. By over-analyzing them and overly engaging in them, and that leads to paralysis in my mind. I can't do things properly. And no, the purpose should be that it should increase our commitment towards the whole process. That should be the goal here, right? So when we approach all these things with faith and humility, that helps our mind to be fixed in Krishna. Right? So we should see all this list here, all the scriptural promises that we see in the Bhagavatam. We should see, every chapter we are told, oh, if you recite this chapter, you are confirmed, go back to Goloka. We should see all these things as an inspiration to increase our commitment and intensity in our standard procedure of bhakti. That should be the thought at our mind, that whatever we are being given, the goal is to increase our commitment and intensity. That should be the goal here. Don't get overly engaged in this list. Yes, you can follow if you can. That too, be conscious. Some of this might be specifically for temple worship and not for home worship. So don't try to engage everything in home worship and overdo it. I don't know whether you know this. Many of the Prabhupada disciples who are initiating gurus, they don't even let disciples have Radha Krishna deities at home. Many of the time they'll say, "Oh, you just have Gauranitai," because we are Sankirtan movement. So Gauranitai is our Sankirtan leaders. They are the gurus. They are the Lord of Sankirtana. So many of the teachers also say that you just have Gauranitai deities at home, so that we don't get overly engaged in deity worship at home. It could be detrimental for our growth also at some point. So be cautious. Just that's what I would like to say.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, that's good. So let's see. We did this. Okay, Padma Puran came. And we have done the 10 offenses against chanting. We have already done that. I won't go through them. We have those details. Then coming to the 9th one. So here, this ninth is coming again from the 6th chapter. It comes from blasphemy. The Prabhupada starts this with blasphemy, or Rupa Goswami starts it with blasphemy. And so this is another very good example here. I just wanted to show you. There are 3 ways of dealing with insults. Okay, if somebody is blaspheming, let's say your guru or Krishna in front of you, what do you do? First thing is, you should defeat the opposing party by argument. But not all of us might have that much intelligence. Okay. Secondly is, one should not stand there, meekly. Or, it goes to the extent of saying, give up your life. But yeah, don't give up your life. The third process is, if you're not able to execute it, you should leave the place. So there are 3 ways of how to handle insults being given here. Right? For example, 4th canto, Daksha, he offended Shiva by not offering a part in the yajna to Lord Shiva. Sati, when she came to know about it, she gave up her life for that insult. When Shishupal was blaspheming Krishna in the Rajsuya yajna, many of the kings walked away upon hearing Shishupal. Right? So this is something, three ways of handling insult. Right? However, we should also be cautious that sometimes we should be able to distinguish between when somebody is actually asking for a clarification or if somebody is actually insulting. Nowadays, people put a lot of things on the internet, so please don't do that. My humble request and suggestion. Don't put anything on the internet, because once it goes on the internet, it's never lost. Once you put when you blaspheme a devotee or something that you saw in ISKCON or you read about it, you put it on internet and it stays there for a lifetime. We don't want to do that, right? At your own level, you try to judge what you are seeing, what you are hearing, how is it affecting your bhakti, and then accordingly take a action. Don't unnecessarily aggravate a situation. Just do it in a proper way. That's my suggestion to you. Sometimes you might see that people. I have met many people, who blaspheme. I met so many Christians who come and blaspheme the process that we are following, the deities, the deity worship. They insult them. But I'm not like, I don't start fighting with them. I just walk away from there because my goal there is to distribute books. I'm not there to change this world. I'm just here to give books. So be very careful, be very cautious when you come into such situations, and take an action very consciously, very consciously and practically. So a very good starting point that Prabhupada is bringing out, blasphemy. Sankirtan Prabhu, you're unmuted. I'm not sure if you wanted to share something or you just unmuted.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Prabhu.
Oh my gosh. I've been playing with this computer since I've been listening, trying to make it work, but
okay. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, I don't know if I should share it, but I'm going to share it anyhow because I feel really personalized with Krishna consciousness. And if you see my altar, you have to find out who I don't have. Sadhuj, Lord Jagannath, Lord Nishinga, Panchatattva, Gornitai, Lord Jagannath, Sitaram, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Radha and Krishna. And like Radha and Krishna, my friend had got them years ago, or someone got them years ago, and they were in his attic. And I went into his attic and I saw them. And I said, well, I can't leave them here. I got to take them home. That's the best I can do. But one thing that I realized that I serve my army of Krishna in different forms in my house, but they are Sankirtan deities. So the way I make them happy is to go and die for Sankirtan and preaching, to take it to the most extreme levels. And I do mana seva for them, no matter what. If I see that the position presents itself that I have a window of time that I always know that I'm somewhere, then that's when I serve them too. So every day I say the Damodar Astakam prayer and serve the Lord with that song and prayer. And then I offer some fruit. Usually I do it at 10 o'clock because that's the only time I can do it. But I do it with devotion and as an act that, I'm still awake. And dear Lord, I know you are too. And so I try to do it. Now, I didn't do that when I first started, but after I got really involved with Sankirtan and I knew this was the mood that I wanted to do, and I sort of took the lead from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who said, if you're busy preaching, don't worry about doing your Gayatri. That's real heavy. So we have to, I realize that, I don't say anything or I don't tell anybody what they have to do. in reference to that, I know these rules here. I know what they are all about, and I don't disregard them. But at the same time, on my personal level, I want to enjoy the association of the Lord in his form that he offers. You know, he offers me his form. How could that? This is the most inconceivable thing that the Supreme Personality can do.
Yeah.
And so I want to take advantage of that as an individual, you know. And so I'm involved and I'm wrapped up in that association of the Lord. And how can I please them? Bring them home a progress report.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea.
Give them a real progress report. What did I try to do? How did I try to do? What can I do? What can I do? What did I do? It should be, a list of things I did then that I didn't do, then don't go back home because you don't have a report. What good is your house? What good is your pillow? Because Prabhupada said, if you don't, he said, when you get home and you really fall down or you pass out because of your devotional service that day, you did some good work. So I try to do like that because I'm not together in any other fashion except, I really want to please the mood of Srila Prabhupada, and if someone can do what he did for me, I surely can try to do something wonderful in reciprocation with this form that I've been benedicted with, and I'm not a saint. I'm farthest thing from it. But, I take shelter of the holy name with complete conviction. And yes, I am a Harinam, holy name worshiper. And that my first deity is the deity of the form of sound, Krishna in his form of sound. That's what I worship day in and day out. If I don't say that holy name on my tongue, I've realized I'm just inviting the other energy, Maya. It's okay. If that's what you want, okay. But if you really want to achieve something else, then you have to recondition your conditioning, So this whole thing is to awaken us. Prabhupada has given us so much to awaken ourselves, extricate yourself, and attach yourself properly. So this is what and I since I've been reading this, I read this book, I read this a long time ago. It was one of the first books I read, and it was so flipped out. It was so heavy, I couldn't handle it. It was just like, I can read the English language, but it was too much. Now it's like nectar. I didn't have any tabs in this book. Now I got tabs all over the place. It is so wonderful what really is happening here with the living entity who wakes up to some energy called devotion, and this is the nectar of devotion, what we're covering here. And so also what Prabhupada has done is he gleaned this here. This is only a piece of it. He said, I took it all and I made it simple for you all.
Yeah.
This book. This is just a scraping of the outside, but Prabhupada is so merciful that he at least tries to give us an outline to see that there is a real intensified depth here. So, I appreciate this, but I'm not the same as most people. And I probably won't go back to the spiritual sky right away. But I know one thing, I'm confident that I'm doing enough to at least keep me in the human form for the next go round, and I'm not taking it easy and I'm not taking it lightly. And I do enjoy the association of the devotees. I do hanker and appreciate every living entity, especially the devotees that chant the holy name, the Vaishnavas. This is the gift of Mahaprabhu. And the gift of the devotees is not for everyone on the planet. Yes, it is, but it's really for Prabhupada made a community, made a place where the whole world could live. Prabhupada gave us a situation where we can contaminate each other with the COVID of love. We can. And it's an amazing, and we have all different levels of just wonderful glowing representations of the love of Krishna. We're all, like Prabhupada said, that we're all part of the pleasure potency of the Lord. So Krishna has given himself in this deity form so that we can personalize this situation and not take it cheaply. I mean, when Prabhupada gave this Nectar of instruction or Nectar of devotion classes, he gave a series of 11 or 12 of them in Vrindavan. And he was really deep into talking about the deities. And he said, yeah, when they talk to you, and he sort of explained how they were talking to the Goswamis. And then he stopped for a minute, and you realize that he said, oh, if you're not doing like this, do not be discouraged.
Yeah.
Because, this is how personal it will get. Not maybe in this lifetime. We're not all robots. We can't go from A to Z. Not everyone can. Some will, and that's okay. But Prabhupada gave us from A to Z. He gave us an insight. Wow. You mean if I can be really pure and sincere, I will talk to my deities and they will talk to me? These are some of the classes that he was giving in Vrindavan. And I listened to them, and I got so much out of it. But I'm really thankful that we have this class and this program. It's really important. You're a great asset to this. I mean, you don't find anybody that's so scholarly at the same time, pounding the ground like a monster. I mean, I met you, I don't know, whenever you came here.
And I'm completing 10 years next month.
Okay, there you go. 10 years ago. And we were getting up early in the morning and driving at sunrise before everybody else to take all the equipment to do, festivals. You're brand new to the area, but you weren't new to what we were doing. And I think back on that. And this is the Nectar of devotion, Prabhu. And now, and I had no idea. I was a knucklehead, and you were a shining moon, and you always did everything very nicely. And now here it is. It's 10 years later, and I get to hear a level of your intellect that somebody got some intellect and they use it for Krishna. There's nothing better. You didn't waste that gift. You got that gift from your last life. We know that from the Bhagavad Gita. You got it from your last life, but then when you take advantage of it, what happens? You also intelligent to find out who gives you the mercy, and you go for the one who gives you the mercy. That's not rocket science. So I'm just thankful that I have this program. I get to hear the devotees speaking and their sensitivity. So I just thankful for this deity worship is not to be taken lightly. I did do deity worship in Potomac when I got Brahmin initiation, and I got to get up on the altar, and that was a real workout, and it was wonderful. It was an amazing experience. It was a different zone on that altar. So my only thing is I can't wait till Pancha at the Baltimore Temple teaches me to dress Lord Jagannath. That's one thing, but I got to get time, and it seems like there's no time to do everything. I mean, it's just so amazing. But I thank you. I thank you and all the devotees for tolerating me.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Okay, so yes, this 9th chapter. So here now there's some topics that have been covered. We'll talk about some of them. Some are pretty straightforward. Tilak and tulsi beads, we all do that. We have tulsi beads around our neck and we put tilak. This is one thing I wanted to bring out. There is a few things. Accepting flower garlands. And Prabhupada quotes a very good verse from 11th canto, 6th chapter, verse 46. It's a Tvayo Bhukta Shragandha Vasu Alankara Charchita. Let me show you this verse. A very good verse, which kind of once again tells us how Prabhupada has simplified Bhagavatam and brought it on a very practical level for all of us to follow. So I wanted to show you this one verse. This is 11.6. Is 11.6.46? 11.6.46, yes. So this is the verse. Tvayo bhukta shrag gandha vasho alankar charchita uchishta bhojino dasas tava mayam jaye mahi. Simply by decorating ourselves with the garlands, fragrant oils, clothes, and ornaments that you have already enjoyed. This is Uddhava speaking to Lord Krishna. And by eating the remnants of your meals, we, your servants, will indeed conquer your illusory energy. So this will be helpful for all of us, because the reason we always, when we smell the flower, we put incense that has been offered to Krishna. Sometimes, the temple also gives away garments that the deities have won, or the ornaments that the deities have worn, and so all that is prasad for us. And what will that eventually do? It will cut down the illusory energy that we are so deeply entangled in. So just wanted to bring out this one concept that been discussed, and Prabhupada is bringing this out. Okay. Dancing before the deity. Yes, we all dance before the deity, bowing down in honor of the deity, standing up to receive the Lord. This is one thing that we all should, one etiquette is that if we are sitting and then the curtains open, we just don't pay, at least we try to not pay our obeisances while sitting. Please stand up, then you can pay your obeisances out, but at least stand. It just makes it a more respectful thing to do. That, the deity has come, so we're sitting, we stand up, and then we offer obeisance. Okay, so going to the place of pilgrimage, we have talked about it, how different places of pilgrimage, what we are supposed to do. In the Nectar of Instruction, last verse, we saw that the value of a place of pilgrimage is only when we go and engage with a devotee there. Then only that pilgrimage site has value. Otherwise, Vrindavan is full of so many people who are doing nonsense there. But when we go to Vrindavan, we go to temple, we see devotees, we hear some katha there and all that. So yes. Circumambulating the temple. Yeah, we all do that. There is, I think Prabhupada tells us that, doing it 4 times. We do that parikrama. It's been given here. There are multiple reasons why we do 4 times. Some reasons being that there are 4 steps in our life. We are born, we live, we die, and then we take rebirth. So those 4 steps, when we do that parikrama, we are kind of requesting the Lord to take away all those 4 steps we don't have to go through that anymore. That's one of the reasons. There are many reasons you can find in the scriptures for why to take 4 rounds. Archana. Okay. So here there are 2 things here. Archana and rendering service to the Lord. So they might sound similar. Archana and rendering service to the Lord, they are very 2 specific things. The word Archana refers to Aarti and deity worship specifically. Right? And then rendering service, which is the next thing, is more of service. It includes other services to the Lord. Okay. So that includes some other, like for example, Sankirtan. Sankirtan is a broader, it's a form of glorification. Any form of glorification of Krishna is Sankirtan. Right? So rendering service. I just wanted to see where's that. Something was there. Okay, Sankirtan is there. Yes, Sankirtan is been given here. Now Sankirtan is 2 types. Is it 2 types? No. 3 types that Prabhupada has explained to her, Rapagrupa Goswami has explained. There is Nama Sankirtan, there is Leela Sankirtan, and the last is Guna Sankirtan. And we will see that the first evidence that we get here from Vishnu Dharma is about chanting of the holy name. Okay? So chanting of the holy name, that's Nama Sankirtan. Then there is the next one that Prabhupada gives, 7, 9, 18. Here it's about hearing, which is Leela Sankirtan, that you're hearing the Leelas of Krishna, okay, his pastimes, and then this one, Narada Panchana. This is also about hearing the pastime. Then there's one verse Prabhupada is giving, 1:5:22. It's about chanting the glories of Krishna. That is Guna Sankirtan. right? Glorifying Krishna. We sing, right? Jai Radha Madhav Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha. That we are glorifying Krishna in his different ways. That sometimes we call him, Madhusudan, the one who killed the Madhu demon. Sometimes we call him Arisudhan, who killed the demon Arisud. And so we chant the glories of the Lord. So that's all. We are glorifying the Lord. So that's Guna Sankirtan. So the Sankirtan is of three types, which has been detailed here by Rupa Goswami. Nama Sankirtan, once again, Leela Sankirtan, about pastimes, and Guna Sankirtan, which glorifies the Lord. And Sankirtan is a group activity. Then there is Japa after this. Japa is a more personal activity. So when we chant, so to how to differentiate, Japa is something you're doing for yourself, purifying yourself. Sankirtan is more of purifying the world around. Obviously, Sankirtan is also purifying us, but the main goal is there is to purify. That's why when we go on the streets, we sing, we distribute books. Yes, it's purifying me also, but then the thought on my mind is that I want to serve other people. I want to serve other children of Krishna. Japa is a more of an individual activity. Then comes submission. Okay, submission is, there are three things that submission has been given here. Samprarthan Atmika, Dainya Bodhika, and Lalasyamai. So these are the three kinds of submission that have been talked about. So submission, to give you a very layman term, submission is a personal prayer that expresses one's own sentiment to Krishna. Okay, so that's an expression of a sentiment. There's another thing that comes after this, which is reciting notable prayers, but we'll come to that later on. But it might sound similar, that submission means you're expressing our sentiment to Krishna. Okay, so the first thing that is being talked about is Samprarthanatmika, which means very feelingly offering prayers. Very feelingly means expressing one's heartfelt desire for spontaneous devotional service. And that's the first one, Padma Puran, that's been given here. Young girls have natural affection for young boys have natural affection for young girls. Yuvati nam yatha yuni, yunam cha yuvato yatha. And I am praying to the Lord that please give me that kind of attraction towards you, that young boys have towards young girls, and vice versa. So that's Samprathanatmika. Okay. Lord, give me devotional, spontaneous devotional service. Then comes Dainya Bodhika. Dainya Bodhika means expressing one's insignificance before the deities, submitting oneself, humbly submitting oneself. So the word Dainya has been explained in Brad Bhagavatamrita. So Dainya means utter humility. One always thinks himself exceptionally incapable. That's utter humility. That's Dainya. The word Dainya, that's the meaning of the word Dainya. However, Dainya is not self-pity. Dainya is not low self-esteem. Dainya is not inferiority complex. Please remember that. Dainya of a pure devotee is coming from a point where the pure devotee has rejected his false ego, his or her false ego. Whereas low self-esteem and an inferiority complex comes from a position where our false ego is, we have not given it up. It's been frustrated. I want to be famous. I want to feel superior, but I cannot because I don't have qualities. And that makes me feel low about myself. But humility, on the other hand, this Dainya concept means devotee does not want to be self-centered. He wants to be Krishna-centered. That is humility. So please, I just want to clarify humility versus self-pity or low self-esteem. There's a huge difference in them. They both might present themselves as similar, but down deep, the thought is extremely different in both those cases. The third one here is Lalasamai. Lalasamai means, what it says here is desiring some perfectional state. Lalasya, lalsa, right? In Sanskrit, lalsa means greed. So this is an advanced practice that involves some realization of one's eternal relationship with the Lord. It's more specific than the first topic, Samprarthanatmika. Samprarthanatmika is a prayer for awakening our bhava. Lalasamai, as I said, occurs at a more advanced stage. Right? So it is a prayer to reinstate in one's specific eternal service to Krishna, Swarup Siddhi. Narad Muni is the first example of Lalasamai. He was overwhelmed with the mood of dasya, right? So he desired to the service of fanning the Lord. So that was his desire. So his desire was coming from a direct realization of his eternal mood of devotion towards the Lord. So Lalasamai is slightly different from Samprarthanatmika. And the last one that I just wanted to touch on was reciting prayers, reciting notable prayers. There are so many prayers across Bhagavatam. There is Brahma Samhita, Nectar of Instruction, Ishopanishad. We should try our best to memorize some of these and recite them. Many of Prabhupada's disciples, I have seen at initiations, they recite Brahma Samhita. The reason because Prabhupada, when he used to do initiations, he would recite Brahma Samhita. And I'm not sure if you have noticed this. I've noticed that nearly every Prabhupada disciple has memorized Brahma Samhita. They all know Brahma Samhita because Prabhupada used to do it. So offering prayers by itself is very glorious. Sometimes we might think memorizing verses is a headache. But the benefit of memorizing verses is that you can recite them anywhere and absorb yourself in them. Right? Mahaprabhu, when he went to South, he went to, what was that? Tiruchirappalli? He found that Brahma Samhita there and he had it translated. Why? Because he wanted his followers to memorize it, Brahma Samhita. So that's the reciting is an important thing. See, and it is said here that any person who comes before the deity of Lord Krishna and begins to chant different prayers, he is immediately relieved from all the reaction of sinful activities. So going in front of the deity, if you can't memorize the whole set of prayers, memorize one verse, and which is your favorite, and just go and recite in front of the deities. Any verse, simple verses, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Nadi Radhir Govinda Sarva Karana. Yeah, I just go and glorify Krishna there. The whole Brahma Samhita is nothing but glorification of the Lord. Ishopanishad, right? You can memorize verses from Ishopanishad. Agnes Nai Supataraya Asmi Vishwani Deva Vainani Vidavan. The last verse. I mentioned to you, sometimes devotees memorize that last verse and this recited when they are going to bed at night. So it has a lot of potency to it when you memorize verses and we present it. Okay. Partaking of prasadam, drinking charnamrita, all good, smelling incense, this we have talked to. Touching the deity. Sorry, is somebody saying something? Did I miss something? No? Okay. I thought there was some comment there. Okay. Touching the deity. This is a good one here. Just one thing to highlight here. Prabhupada is highlighting that in India, he's highlighting about Mahatma Gandhi, that how Gandhi wanted to elevate people just by giving them a different name, calling them Harijan, the children of God. But people cannot be elevated that way. You cannot expect somebody who has unclean habits to go and start doing deity worship. There is a process of purification by association with pure devotees, cleansing your thoughts and yourself by your body and your mind, and then you become eligible for touching the deity. Right? So it's a way of honoring the deity. Right? So sometimes, So sometimes, I don't know if you know this, many times ISKCON devotees are not allowed to enter Jagannath temple. You all might know that already. Right? So Prabhupada didn't appreciate that. He didn't like that because his disciples, his followers have been purified by the right process, by the Vedic system. They all have become Brahmanas. They have given up bad habits. They are conscious. They have become clean. So they are eligible to enter the temple. But then, some temples, they don't allow deity. Then they have their own reasons. So no offense against those temples either. So, yeah. Okay, seeing the deity, observing Aarti celebration. Okay, this ends the chapter here. Sorry, I went over a couple of minutes. I just wanted to wrap this chapter up. Ninth. And I know we are over time, but if you have any questions or comments pending, please feel free to text me or put it on the group, WhatsApp group. I'll be happy to address any more comments and questions here.